Okay, good evening and welcome to the Holliston Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for November the 18th, 2020. Thank you for joining us. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First is to read into the record our notice of the remote meeting. Pursuant to the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, MGL Chapter 30A, Paragraph 20, as well as the Select Board's emergency order dated March 16th, 2020. The Zoning Board of Appeals will be using remote participation for this meeting. The audio of this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the town's webpage within 24 hours in accordance with the governor's emergency action requirements of keeping the public informed of actions during this meeting. I would ask that all participants remotely attending this meeting, please state your name for identification purposes each time you speak throughout the meeting. At this time, a roll call attendance vote will be taken. John Love, present. Jay Peabody?
Present.
Mark Bush, are you on yet?
He's having trouble with the link, so
okay, we'll pull him in when we see him.
Yeah, I resent it to him.
Oh, here he comes.
Right, there he is.
Hi, Mark. You know how to make an entrance? Almost. Mark, I don't know if you can hear us. We're doing the roll call, so if you can hear us, can you announce your presence? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right. Sorry, technical issues. The link would not work. I think I had something still in the browser from a Zoom meeting today. Anyway, here I am.
Thank you. That's great. And Liz Dembitzer?
Present.
Present. So all here and accounted for. Thank you. And welcome to all of our townspeople and guests and those others that are interested in going to the ZBA. So I think first order of business is the approval of minutes of our October 28th, 2020 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to read through them, and any comments or corrections?
I just had this could have just been my memory. Maybe I shouldn't remember, but when it says people who spoke, sorry, when we talked about 799 Washington Street, and now I'm trying to find it.
On page 2 of the minutes.
Oh yeah, no, never mind. Sorry, I read it wrong. It says the following individuals raised questions and spoke against the proposal. Okay. And you listed there Select Board member Tina Hine, and I don't remember her. I remember her adding comments, and but I don't remember her, speaking against the proposal. I thought she just talked about the parking lot in the back. She kind of clarified stuff. So I just wanted to be careful with the way her comments were characterized. Of course, if anyone remembers her speaking against it, it could just be I have a bad memory.
Yeah, no, I think your point's well taken. It might have certainly been inferred, but I don't think she did do it more as clarification and not when asked if there's anybody that wishes to speak in opposition. So I think, yeah, if we could modify that to indicate that she provided information. Any other comments on the minutes?
I didn't have any others.
None from me.
Okay. In that case, we did accept the motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Maybe, Liz, do you want to just do it because then you can articulate the change?
Oh, okay. So I move to accept the minutes of the October 28th, 2020 meeting with the change to be that that the following individuals raised questions and spoke against the proposal, and to leave out at that point Select Board Member Tina Hine. And then add instead, Select Board Member Tina Hine, clarified some questions about the proposed parking area downtown. That.
Okay, I second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor will use a roll call vote. John? Aye. Jay?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda is the public hearing for a special permit at 45 Washington Street. We have the proponent like to present what that thing is. That Mr. American, are you speaking for this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Dan American with Legacy Engineering here on behalf of the applicant, the Gill Realty Trust. Richard Gill is here with me tonight as well.
If I could interrupt you just a moment, I forgot one housekeeping item. For anybody who is, I see somebody's on the telephone. If you wish to raise your hand, *9 will accomplish that, and then you have to hit *6 to unmute. Anybody that's on the computer can use the raise hand function on the right-hand side of the screen when you click participants, and we'll acknowledge you when time's appropriate. I apologize for interrupting. I forgot to tell them that earlier.
Yeah, no problem. Is it okay if I share my screen, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I think so. If Chris will give you that ability.
All set.
You all set? Go right ahead.
Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, so we're here tonight with a special permit application under VJ 3B1. This is property in a currently developed property at 45 Washington Street. It's the home of Countryside Autos, which is a used car sales facility. This is the existing conditions plan here. You can see the small building in the front here, which is kind of looks like an old house. There's a paved parking lot all around it, and then in back there's a gravel area where vehicles are stored. The reason we're here tonight is that this line right here, this black line, is a FEMA Zone A floodplain line. I'm sure you guys know a Zone A floodplain is a zone where FEMA has not conducted a study and has not established a flood elevation. So we're here requesting a special permit because we're looking to redevelop the property, and I'll review that in a minute. And portions of the existing developed areas of the property fall within this Zone A. However, it's our view that the area in question is not actually subject to flooding in a 100-year storm. If you look at the surrounding area, Dobbing Brook, which is just across Brook Street, has a 100-year flood elevation of 163. Then the wetland behind the site has an elevation of around 161 or 162. And all of these areas that are currently developed are up at elevation 165 and 166. And this is not uncommon. FEMA maps, graphically speaking, are not super accurate, particularly when it comes to a Zone A where there's no established flood elevation. So it's not surprising that, the maps might be slightly off in this area. What the applicant is looking to do is to basically redevelop property for the same use. It'll still be Countryside Auto. They're looking to demolish the existing building in the front and to build a new 1.5-story building here, basically looking to repave the parking area. We're actually going to shrink the paved area a little bit, and we're going to implement stormwater management measures where there really are little or none presently. So a lot of the work, as you can see, if you look here on the west side of the property in the existing condition, this is all paved. we're proposing to install a stormwater basin in there, and that's going to provide treatment and infiltration for stormwater runoff from this whole portion of the property. Same thing in the back. There's an existing gravel storage yard area. We're looking to, in that area, put a stormwater infiltration basin. There are a few other minor areas that are existing parking areas that we're going to repave, but for the most part, the work that we're proposing in the Zone A floodplain is the installation of stormwater management systems. There is even if this were a floodplain, we're basically excavating out some of these areas to create stormwater basins, so we're lowering the grade. So even if it were subject to flooding, which we don't believe that it is, we would certainly not increase flood elevations in the area because we are reducing the elevation, lowering the elevation in these locations, and therefore creating additional storage. And that's basically it. I am happy to answer any questions you have. As far as our status, we're in front of the Conservation Commission. We've had our first hearing with them. We've received some comments from their peer review consultant on the stormwater management system, which is going to necessitate some minor revisions. This stormwater basin is going to end up shifting over to the east a little bit, not a lot. The rear stormwater basin shouldn't change at all. We've applied for site plan approval and various special permits for the planning board, and we are before them for the first time on December 3rd. So with that, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I was just going to ask you the same thing to clarify so with the planning board, you would go for full site plan approval and would anticipate that they would provide commentary and direction relative to, kind of everything, parking, building, site plan, access, et cetera. And in our case, you were looking for a special permit that would allow this to happen under our floodplain regulation bylaw. I just want to clarify that we're not stepping on each other's toes nor leaving gaps.
Right, there are other special permits that are required, but they all, under the zoning bylaw, they all fall under the planning board permitting process. This is the only one that does not, so this one comes to you guys.
Right. And that is to issue some. Okay. And I think I understand it because you've said it, but I'll just clarify and make sure I'm not misinterpreting. But as I look at what's there, in terms of impervious area, you're going to add a little tiny bit on the upper quadrant, just that corner of the thing, and on the lower area that's currently paved and
This is all paved presently. This is gravel presently. This little corner is gravel.
and then you would be digging out the infiltration basins in both cases.
Right. In these areas here, this existing pavement, this existing gravel, so we'll be excavating down and then reshaping, loaming, seeding, and basically converting it from a impervious area to a pervious stormwater basin area.
And is the current drainage just rolls off the impervious into the?
Yeah, there's only one existing drainage component, which is a catch basin in this corner, which picks up some runoff from this area, but everywhere else, it just runs off towards the wetland or out into Washington Street.
Okay, thanks.
So the project will result in a very significant improvement in stormwater management on the site.
It would seem. Do other members of the board have any questions of the applicant?
This is more of a question, maybe through Karen. So Karen, one of the things that we have to do is, for determination purposes, is it limited to a determination that utilities to be located or constructed or to minimize or eliminate flood damage? Or do we have to think about, structures? Because the way that the bylaw reads, I think it's pretty limited.
I'm not sure. Dan, do you have that handy?
I have the bylaw, yep, right here. So, I applied under B1 because the stormwater management system is a utility. The other minor work in that zone A is basically just it's almost a repaving of what's already there. So I didn't see anything under the bylaw that pertained to that. But this, a drainage system is a utility system, so I thought it fell under B1, which is this one right here under special permit uses.
Okay, so when I read utilities, my head doesn't go to drainage right away. It goes to all the other.
Yeah.
But so assuming it's drainage and that's what's changing, all the other, this is my question. All the other utilities coming to the site will remain as they exist today. So there's utilities that line into the site that go to the building. Those aren't going to be changed. It's just you're changing drainage, correct?
Well, there's no other utilities in the floodplain. Obviously, we're building a new building, so we're going to run new utility lines to the new building.
But it's all outside of the floodplain.
But it's all outside the floodplain. The only thing that's in the floodplain right now is pavement and gravel parking areas.
Okay.
That's this whole thing right here is, pavement here, and then this is all gravel parking area.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no existing.
So what you're saying makes sense to me now that you've described that the utility is in fact the drainage. I guess I would have read it.
And Jay, it's my understanding, and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, because I very well may be, but that the floodplain district is limited to the actual floodplain as designated. So the rest of the lot, the special permits required there, which will come under the planning board site plan review process that apply to the building itself and the utilities to the building, are not subject to the floodplain district regulations. It's only what happens in the floodplain.
Yep.
Okay. Did I state that accurately, Karen? Reasonably accurately? Anywhere close to accurately, yeah. Okay, so so I think that's really what we need to deal with, which is fairly limited.
So as to that, which is really just, I was trying to get some clarification on the way the section is written, so that to the extent we find in favor of the special permit, that we just do it in keeping with the bylaw. So I don't have any other questions about the plan per se.
Yeah, nor do I. I'm happy to see the compensatory water storage. That I think that'll mitigate any issues relative to floodplain. And all I can say is, I wish you did this 21 years ago when we first got here. Coming from Sherburne, that existing building sure is not pretty.
The gem, isn't it?
You know you're in Holliston, yeah. When you see countryside auto. I'm just disappointed that the fire engine is gone. It was there for so long. Okay. Liz, any questions from your side?
No, we are working on a plan revision, addressing comments we received from the Conservation Commission, as I mentioned, on their peer review consultant on the drainage system design. So there is going to be some minor changes here. So I would imagine that it would be appropriate for us to continue to your next meeting.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing if we could change that.
And then by then, I think we'll have been in front of the planning board, and we'll know if anything else in the floodplain district needs to change.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to suggest it probably makes sense for us to trail the planning board, but indicate to them our sense of where it's going, so that we make sure that they've captured anything and acting as a little more comprehensive permit.
I just have, I guess the gist of it is that you're putting the stormwater drainage areas where there used to be pavement in this flooding area, supposedly flooding area, and that's basically better if it was a flooding area than it would be to have the pavement there anyway, correct? It seems like it's just improving the site, even if it is in a floodplain. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, from an environmental standpoint, the elimination of pavement is always a good thing. But, more than that, what we're putting there is specifically designed to treat and infiltrate stormwater runoff, which is good for the wetland, good for your aquifer, it's good for everything.
All right. I don't have any other questions right now.
Okay. So if that's the case, I'm going to suggest, Karen, do we know when the planning board next meets, or do you, Mr. Merkin?
December
The
3rd.
3rd of December.
I'm sorry?
The 3rd of December.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's perfect. And
When's our next meeting?
so I'm going to suggest that we continue this hearing till our next meeting, which time we should probably have heard from those guys and then can.
So our next meeting's the 9th.
Okay.
Does that time frame work for, Dan, does that work for you and your client?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Well, I'll make a motion that we continue the public portion of the application for a grant of special permit by Gill Realty Trust for the property located at 45 Washington Street, Holliston, Mass. Until our next meeting that is scheduled for November 9th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll proceed with roll call vote. John, aye. Jay,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
motion carries. So thank you, Mr. Merkin. We'll see you then on the 9th. Hopefully you've been through the planning board and Conservation Commission comments will be implemented, and we should probably be in a position to go. And I don't think we see any real issues here.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Where do we go from here? Next on our agenda is a public hearing for a dimensional variance at 526 Concord Street. And let's see if I can pull up the. Okay, do we have the applicant who's speaking for the applicant on this?
Oh, you're on mute. Sandra, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Can maybe try to unmute her 1 second. I can't do it.
Sandra, just hover over the Zoom and a little window will pop up on the bottom left. There'll be a microphone. Just click on that. No.
Up, there we go.
There you go.
When your 6-year-old does it for you, there's a problem. Hi,
No,
I'm
that's
here.
not a problem. That means you're entering the
He's like,
golden
it's
age.
John here. Right? I'm here.
It's the golden age. So welcome and thank
Thank
you.
you.
So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what you'd like to do. And Chris, I don't know, do you have, you have the
Oh, there it is.
plan, so you can speak to that as we go.
So we're looking to gain 3 feet, 3.2 feet variance to the front where we have our farmer's porch. In the front, we kind of measured it. And apparently I went to the street and I think it should have been to the fence. So that's why now we're looking for the variance on it.
Was the farmer's porch a new addition?
Yes, we had stairs, well, broken stairs. So it is, that was part of the new addition.
I think I'm looking at old Google images here.
And our requirements are 40 feet, I take it. On setback. Yeah, I guess your property line is not at the street, but. No, there's an indication in the application that it was this built per spec, or I think it's just a measuring issue.
Well, yes and no. So it was for the 5 feet on the plans. And then we had asked, so they cantilevered it over, so they built it. And then when we measured it, that's when we thought it was fine. And then when the inspector came out, they were like, "You're too close." I'm like, "We are? No, I thought we were just right on there." So he's like, "You're gonna have to go for a variance." So that's why we're here.
Okay.
So was the original, so did the original work require a building permit? And if so, was a building permit issued?
The building permit was issued based on the plans. And then when the contractor was here building it, my husband was here with them and said, "Oh, if we cantilevered it out," and he measured it, he said, "We should still be within the setbacks," which we're not.
Okay.
Right, I did measure that right, 3.2.
So the original stairs were within the setback. And then,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're fine. The original stairs, and then they broke and you did a farmer's porch.
Right, so the stairs broke, we were doing the addition in the back. And then we decided to add a farmer's porch while we were doing the addition to make it, nicer for, where it's a hangover, so the kids could, like, when they're waiting for the bus, go under there. So that was on the original plans.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I think some of our questions not so much about what it's done, but in one of the elements of a variance is to demonstrate a hardship that the state law requires that is attributable to the land and all, which is a bit of a tough one here.
It's actually built. Other than we just had the plans redone to add 3 more footings because of the way it went off, like the way it went, I should say, longer.
It's just a structural overhang. So there's stairs below it, and then it's a covering. It's not a enclosed space, is it?
It's an overhang. Let's see if I have a picture. Yeah, it has a roof on it.
Yeah, do you
but it's
have a
open.
photo of it?
That would be good to see. I'm looking at old Google images, and it's not helpful.
Yeah, it's not there. Yeah, I did the same.
Let's see if I have. Like as far as the plan goes, pictures?
No, like what it looks like today. That would be ideal. I mean, I guess we all could have driven by. I didn't.
So it almost, if you look, are you looking at the Google image now? It looks like it comes out with the roof has the pitch. And then the decking would be underneath it. So I don't know if I'm making sense. It's going to be like closed just for the stairs coming down. But the overhang is like to match the garage area, like how the pitch on the garage goes like this. Definitely not explaining it right.
And is it a farmer's porch? So do you have a porch area and then steps down, or is it just a cover over new stairs that go down right from the front door?
No, it'll be a farmer's porch with the stairs then coming down. But we haven't built any of that, so it's.
So then you're going to be even closer to the street because we measure from the stairs, the bottommost stair.
No, I think we measured it from. I think when the inspector was here, that's what they measured it from. Let me see if I can find a picture of. Can you see that from it?
So the overhang in the porch is built now, or just the overhang?
The overhang and the framing on the bottom. Right. It's pretty much built other than the steps and the framing on the deck. Trying to see if I can get a picture of it.
So what we almost need is some kind of as-built. So we can see the exact dimensions and then consider the exact relief. That's what I think you need. Because what we have right now, that plan is not helpful.
Yeah. So just to clarify, the inspector measured from where the bottom step is proposed to be, and that's when he said you needed relief? Or did he measure from the end of the overhang and said, well, no, you need relief for that?
From the plot plan that he did, it looks like he measured it right from where the steps are.
The last step is proposed to be, but the steps aren't there now, right?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's where that 36 point, is it 5.7?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I'm getting at. It sounds to me like that plan isn't even accurate to what you guys want to do. Dimensionally. Unless I'm missing.
Because the steps will extend towards the street past the existing structure and framing.
Right, I did send in the original plans, the updated plans with the steps and the deck
Okay.
to the inspector when he wrote that. So he does have the plot plan with the, and I'd emailed him the actual revised architectural plan. I think I might have. Yeah, because the plot plan was definitely revised to show it. So I don't know if you can see this. I'm not sure. I don't know if I can even. Does that show any of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does show it.
So that's how it's built now. Then I might have another picture. Hold on. Mia, hold on a second.
So Sandra, at the bottom of that, so you've got can you hold that up again?
Yep, this is a better one, I think, maybe.
Okay. And then the steps would come beyond that towards us
Correct.
or towards the street?
Or, I mean, why wouldn't they come off to the side?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, they could, but that would be into the driveway.
Okay, I can't hear you.
Yeah. So Sandra, so the steps are going to come forward from there,
Yes.
not to the side.
I mean, if I have to do the side, I will. I just didn't think it would make a nice front appeal. Like, you know what I mean? Like an entrance? I don't know. Like a
Yeah.
welcoming entrance. I felt like it would be more like,
Right. I think the issue, though, is that it would appear from your plot plan that the 36.57 measurement is to what exists there, that framing, so that
Yeah, to the
actual
front edge of that
measurement-
framing, right?
It would need to go to the furthest out, the bottom step, basically, which sounds like it's a different dimension than that.
right, but am I reading that correctly? Is that 37 feet? And then the stairs would give me that variance, right? Or no?
Well, I think what happens is, I'm looking at this and just gauging, I'm guessing where the end of your old stairs was just about 40 feet from the property line, probably, looking at this plus or minus, that where you are now is the 36.57, but then when you add 2 or 3 steps, whatever it takes to get down, you're going to be out an additional several feet. And so that the actual dimension would be on the order of, say, 33 feet or 34 feet, depending on how many steps and how big they are. It is my conjecture, but I don't know that.
That's kind of what I was saying before with,
Yeah.
if we knew what the relief was, because we knew what existed today and then what you're proposing to add, then we can look at it and say, oh, that makes sense, and we can, potentially vary based on that need. But today, I just don't think this plan reflects what you guys need.
That's my concern as well.
Okay, so you need me to show you? I thought there was the revised plan that was in there for the new deck.
We have the new deck, but we don't have the steps.
Well, yeah, we may not have it. It may be in the building permit application, but no.
I don't
I think I
Yeah,
might
no,
have a
I've
copy of
looked.
one here.
Yeah, I've looked through everything. I didn't see it, John.
Yeah, I didn't know.
So Sandra, the issue is that it sounds like you're seeking relief for what you have framed out and what you just showed us on the picture, but your builder has to add a couple of steps down to the ground, and that's going to get closer to the street. So if we gave you relief to what you're asking for now, you're going to be encroaching on that relief
You'll be
because
without
we don't know
steps.
what the final plan is. You're coming closer to the street than we think what you're asking for.
All right, give me one second. I have the plans that they did, so I'm surprised because when I got these plot plans done, they knew exactly what I needed it. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
so did you have the email that I had sent to Chris Canny or no? That wouldn't be
No,
attached.
we
then,
just have the
right?
application and with it a plot plan that was prepared by Colonial Engineering. And that's all we have.
All right, because that's what he knew we were doing, so.
Yeah.
You want to do me a favor? I just wanted to see, well, it's not gonna matter if you see my new plan, the architectural plan, if the stairs are on there, will it tell or no?
It may have dimensions, but if it does, we could probably do. I'm guessing it might make more sense though for you to ascertain that so that we don't,
Okay.
pursue this for the wrong dimension somehow, or take the guesses and end up wrong.
All right, so I need to clarify the dimensions for the steps, right?
Yeah, and ultimately it's what the location of the closest point of the new structure, which would be presumably the bottom step to the lot line. because that's what's in variance with the front setback of 40 feet.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's definitely probably gonna be like 3 because that's what we had prior, but all right, I'll get the actual dimensions on it.
And then, so, yeah, I don't know, are there further questions from the board relative to that?
Nope. So would this be something I would just appeal again for?
Well, we can continue the hearing, I think, and take it up again next time around and get that information in the interim.
Okay. Nope, I appreciate it.
When we push that to the 9th, does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, no, I think it does.
All right, in that case, could I get a motion to
Sure.
continue this hearing?
I'll make a motion that we continue the public portion of the hearing for the dimensional variance by Sandra Itinerelli, trustee of the property located at 526 Concord Street until December 9th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Okay, we'll go through a roll call vote then. John, aye. Jay,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
aye. The motion carries. So we'll resume this at our meeting on the 9th. In the meantime, if you could get that information and that measurement, adjust this to let us know and give it in through the
Okay,
office.
great.
Appreciate it, and
All right.
we'll be able to deal with it. Likewise, if maybe it would be helpful for the record too, if you have a copy of the plans, that if that could be submitted with it, we could make it all part of the record. So. that
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect. All right, I'll have that ready.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your time.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Night.
Okey doke. Moving along, I think our next order of business is, if I'm not mistaken, the resumption of the continued hearing at 799 Washington Street. And I think I saw Attorney Richard on there. How do you do, sir?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Appreciate your time again tonight. I guess I'll update you on some new information that hopefully has been made available to the board. One of which is a letter from the Economic Development Committee. They held a meeting last Tuesday. They voted 4-1 to support the application with a couple conditions, which I'd be happy to go over with you. There was I believe, an email from the fire chief regarding just interior sprinkler systems. And then hopefully Karen can pull up. We did provide a new 3D rendering. I know that Elizabeth wanted to kind of get a better understanding of what the site was going to actually look like. So we put back in the light pole for the traffic lights. We put back in the electric box that we had taken out, or electric unit that's physically there. The tree to the right of that exists. We're proposing, if you want us to plant another tree to the left of that for symmetry and just kind of buffer the property a little. The sign, I asked them to do 3 feet by 15 feet. And the sign, I thought the sign would decrease in size. It actually increased. And we could talk about that. I think that is something we can reduce significantly from what appears here. I think the sign by law I looked at is 40 square feet.
Sounds right.
But given how close the canopy is going to be to the street, I think we can reduce that to probably 25 square feet or 30 square feet. I welcome your input, but that I was surprised when I got this rendering, because again, I thought the sign would go down in size, and according to their 3 feet by 15 feet, that's what they came up with. So please don't think that that's the finished product. We did show, I think at the request of several people, the sign on the west side of the property, I'm sorry, east side, is going to be with gas prices. So we've shown that. It's hard to see, but we also show the back of a no left turn sign that we're proposing if you're exiting the site from onto Washington Street, just to the right of that second tree. All you see is silver, but that's the back of the sign that will face the outgoing traffic that will say no left turn. And once again, we've introduced the raised curbing on the inside of the sidewalk along Washington Street, as well as a portion of Green Street. And so that's kind of, Elizabeth, I think, wanted to get a better feeling of what it would look like. We did not put in the telephone pole and the telephone wires. I just felt that would clutter the visual, but there's a telephone pole and overhead wires, that would be above the canopy. I think that's essentially the changes we made. I believe the owner is hopefully is either on the phone or on Zoom tonight. I know that he wanted to maybe say a few words, but happy to answer any other questions the board has. We're hoping that you might be able to make a decision tonight. We're hoping, one of the problems, he does have vagrants. He has issues with the security of the site. And there's been somebody in the back, there's a back shed that we're eliminating, and someone's actually been living in there. And he's constantly having to call the police. We're looking forward to getting the site back on the payrolls and back as a productive site, in Holliston. Understand it's a tough site, understand it's a very tight site, but I think we've done more or less what we can to make this a safe and operable site. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or get any feedback.
One question, and I'm positive I wasn't aware, and I didn't attend the Economic Development Committee meeting, but one of the conditions that they talked about was that the ZBA confirmed the traffic would not create unsafe conditions. And is it possible to elaborate on what that discussion may have been around, other than or the same stuff that we've already addressed?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say there was kind of a coverall that they wanted to kind of dump in your lap.
Yeah,
I hate to put it that way,
that's
but
what I needed too.
I think, we did go over the traffic circulation plans that I showed them, the no left turn, and they felt that that those were very positive developments for the site, but that they felt that at the end of the day, the ZBA is the ones got to satisfy themselves that from a traffic standpoint, we're not creating any issues. And I know there's also an email from Selectman Tina Hine
Yes, I was gonna do that next.
And I just can address the fact that our traffic engineer that we hired stated as follows: as the new gas station is expected to generate the same number of trips as the former gas station, negative impacts are not expected. Therefore, a formal traffic impact analysis was not deemed necessary. Obviously, that's your decision, not his. However, the fact, I think essentially they're saying if this is a new site with a new use, then a traffic study would be warranted. But given that this gas station operated for 50 years or something like that, and there was never an issue with traffic that I've been made aware of, or my clients been made aware of, that one would presume that this site is not more intensive or going to create more traffic than the prior use, and therefore he deemed it unnecessary. And again, that's your folks' decision as to whether a formal traffic impact assessment is required. But I would agree with the engineer, and so far from a practical standpoint, that this isn't going to generate a lot or generate more traffic than it did before. It just doesn't have the capacity to. It doesn't have, it's got one more pump, but it's got the same number of service stations, and arguably is not going to increase traffic. I know there has been a new configuration of the lighting, but by creating the no left-hand turn, you are avoiding that whole kind of movement with Central Street and traveling east that would otherwise be I think a major problem. So happy to again answer questions or respond to issues with the traffic.
I think the concern has been and always remains that conditions around the site have changed fairly dramatically since it last operated. So I'm not sure we can rely on that history to say it, but I also don't know quite what they can determine otherwise on the number of turns in and out. It's nothing more safety. I had another question for that we brought up early on in this process, and I think your predecessor began to address, but really didn't, some of the concerns relative to the village zoning requirements that have been really adopted since this was last, when it was originally developed, that talk about the pedestrian nature of the downtown and some of that. And while we've been talking about some of the maybe more quantitative points about the traffic and whatnot, I am still concerned about it because I think it was a very valid concern for us in that while this did always exist as a gas station, that's really been determined by the town not to be the type of use that's necessarily the most desirable in that area. And I wonder if you could address some of those concerns. I think there was an earlier letter in the record from one of the citizens, Mary Greendale, that addressed that, I thought, rather thoroughly. And we never really got much of a response on that. He mentioned it in the first meeting, but didn't really respond to the specific issues. We could pull that up.
So I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to in terms of, I can look at Mary Greendale's memo.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
But
I can recall some of the
certainly, I mean, part of the pedestrian mitigations that we did was to install the the raised curving on the inside of the site
Mhm.
to protect that sidewalk. So I'm not sure.
All right, well, maybe better, yeah, it would be just let me pull the village zoning, because I think the, now, bear with me, I'll see what I can. It's okay, see. Check. This is embarrassing, I should know my bylaws better. Village, okay.
So I see she cites bylaw VK1C.
Yeah, that's the design guideline, well, you
Motor
look
compact.
at the objectives, which is what we've been talking on and off about, or referring to, but business and professional services that facilitate maintenance of small businesses in a compact pedestrian-oriented environment, et cetera, that promote pedestrian vehicle safety and convenience, and mixed uses in the center of Holliston compatible with the historic village character. I think that's where it started, and then we got into some of the details of the design guidelines, but I don't think we have
Well, I mean, I
a
understand. This is
discussion about that, and I think it's
This is probably not the preferred use
yeah.
From a village character standpoint. However, it is a pre-existing non-conforming lot that has lots of challenges, and I'm not sure where it would go and what it's going to become, because there are obviously other uses that could be even more intense from a retail standpoint. However small an operation it could be, that may generate, in fact, more traffic. And but certainly, he'll look at. He's a businessman, and he'll look at what other options there are. But we were hoping that because it was a gas station previously, and I understand the mobile next door, probably changed the landscape a lot. That he's trying to make this again without demolishing the building or selling it to someone else. A functional. People do have to get their cars serviced.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it's not the prettiest and best use of the property from a town standpoint, but it is a functional, operating or potentially operational site that is, again, we have tried to increase the pedestrian safety and accessibility by putting in the interior curbing and extending the sidewalk on Green Street. I think one could argue that we're increasing the pedestrian friendliness of the Washington Street side and the Green Street side, certainly over what it is now. So happy to take direction.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, it may end up sitting there like this for, a longer period of time, which on the flip side, I don't think is also the best,
Yeah, I agree.
both use and aesthetic component for downtown. And again, it's not a threat. I said that the economic,
No, I did.
there's no threat. If we don't do anything, we don't do anything. We board it up and, go back to the drawing board and see what other uses he could do or who we could sell it to. But as the Economic Development Committee seemed to kind of say, the known's better than the unknown in some ways. It's not a great use, not a great site, not by any means the perfect situation, but you have a responsible owner who's willing to run it responsibly, guarantee no traffic, is on the side streets. I talked to him again about that today, that there can be absolutely no parking off site. And that's not a problem. He operates a gas station up in Chelmsford that he has similar issues, and he's able to schedule, and then he makes it clear that he can only have so many cars on site at one time.
Okay. One other question that I don't think we have addressed is, in order, we've seen the renderings of what would change relative to the circulation, the site, the landscaping, the building, and the canopy. In terms of operations of the gas station, what will be required? Is it tank replacement under the ground to make this work, to add additional pump and all that? I don't really have any idea what's.
Yeah, I do believe he has to replace the tanks, which are both a state and a local permit.
Mm-hmm.
And expect any disruption or any unusual circumstances. Obviously, you do have some concern about the 9 Green Street site leaching on to our property. But as of now, I'm not aware of any particular concerns in that regard, in terms of replacing the tanks.
Tanks would be in the same locations that they are now, the new tanks?
Correct, to the left side, to the west side.
Over on the Green Street side of the building. Thank you.
Also, just to address the variance, is just, the existing topography, which is the lot with the existing building, essentially prevents being able to put up a canopy without encroaching into the front side yard and the side yard. And unfortunately, state law now requires these operators to install a canopy for the safety and elements for the customers. So it creates a hardship if you can't if you can't do that. It certainly creates a hardship that he couldn't really operate unless he's allowed to have a canopy. And because of the existing building, so really the only way to structure a canopy is to encroach in the front yard. And the side yard, front yard's an 8-foot encroachment, 8.3, and the side is 3.1. But arguably it does not derogate from the intent of the bylaw or really affect the neighborhood, given the gas station next door and the commercial nature of the neighborhood.
Karen, she had listed some questions that she was emailed. Were those questions answered or no? You just emailed these late. So one of them has to do with the canopy, the tilt of it. And I guess the question is has a canopy of that kind of tilt been used in New England, where you have to think about snow and wind? And
the pitch of the roof?
Yeah, the canopy, yeah.
I mean, pitch of the canopy. So I don't have information on that readily available, but I believe it matches the pitch of the existing roof line, which has been sufficient. There's been no snow or safety issues with the existing structure. So one would presume the pitch of if the pitch does match the roof line, which we're fine if you condition it to that it has to be the same pitch. Then I don't foresee any issues with snow or water or anything.
Does he have further questions?
I do. I'm going to ask what Karen asked, which is, what were the hours of operation proposed?
Whatever you folks think is reasonable.
And will there be any retail or anything in?
No, I
the-
believe not. I mean, he might sell water or, soda. And I can confirm with that, if you want to eliminate any retail sales, that's fine. It would seem reasonable to just have, minor beverages, maybe in candy or something, that you're not going to have a lot of people going. You don't want people going there just to purchase a beverage or go buy food. You want them to buy gas. And so as an ancillary benefit, you might want to provide water or soda. But again, that's not his business plan. That's not part of it's not a mini mart like the mobile station. That's not part of the business plan. His business plan is sell gas and service cars.
And will he have repair vehicles on site?
When you say repair
Like,
vehicle,
I mean, like a tow truck type thing.
no.
No, okay.
No, he might have cars that will be waiting for service. But again, he only has 4 or 5 spaces that he's going to have to schedule those, appropriately.
So you're saying he would only keep the vehicles that are waiting for service on the property? They won't
Correct.
be lined
Or
up on-
ones that have been recently serviced and they're going to be picked up tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jay or Mark, any further questions or comments from your side?
None from me.
No, I don't have any other questions, but I do need to, it's not a question of the applicant, it's more of a question for us and maybe Karen. So this application so I'm looking at the original application that was back in December. It's an application for a special permit at the site. Correct?
Mhm.
But I think Mr. Richards just said
Yes, that's,
variance criteria, so I'm just confused. This is a special permit application.
Yes.
Okay,
So by the use table has a footnote in it that allows the zoning board to grant to zero lot line as a special permit within the village center. So if you're looking at the table in the dimensional table, so if you go to page 27 of the bylaw,
that's where I am, yeah.
yeah, the footnote allows the reduction.
Okay,
So, yeah, it was before I was involved. Another attorney filed for the variance.
well, yeah, it's a special permit. That's
Correct.
Jay's question.
I guess that's my
I
clarity.
want a variance, but it's because a variance isn't required in this case.
Right, okay. So the only application that we're currently looking at is that original December, now continued X number of times to today.
Yeah, I'd do the same thing.
All right.
Okay. Mark, do you have any?
I don't have any other questions, thanks.
I have no further questions, John.
Okay, are there anyone in the audience that has questions of the proponent? Okay, are there anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard in support of this application? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard in opposition to this? All right, seeing that, I think we've got, board, how do you feel? You need more information or prepared to deliberate this?
I'm comfortable with the information we have in our possession.
Him as well.
All right, in that case, I think we'd entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Sure. Make a motion, we close the application by, I'm not going to say it's the prior lawyer's name, but it's the current petitioner for
All services.
Gulf Services for the property located at 293. Sorry, I'm sorry. Now we close the public portion of the hearing for the application to grant a special permit by Gulf Services, Inc. for the property located at 799 Washington Street, Holliston, Massachusetts.
Do we open the cap? No. Do we put the cap open?
Did we get a second for that? I'm sorry.
Yes, second.
I'm sorry, I missed it. I turned my head. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to roll call vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. John, aye. Jay,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
Okay, the hearing's closed. We'll take it under advisement and deliberate and try and render a decision. So looking at our agenda, I think that's the last of our public hearings. And it being that two of them were continued, we don't have anything to do there. So you guys ready to talk about this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me pull up the application again.
Wait, try to do,
Okay, so looking for the permit for the operation of gas station in the Village Commercial District, including a reduction in yard setbacks as indicated on the drawing. So
that drawing has changed from the first version that we had. So I think it's relative to
yeah, two of the
right drawing. So we'd have to measure off of that.
okay. Oops, you're muted, Jay, if you're talking to us.
So no, I was telling my
Okay.
13-year-old to quiet down.
The wonders of Zoom meetings.
So I think we need to look at the plan, and then I think we then have to really measure up the sort of detriment or non-detriment, and then how this lines up with the Village Center Commercial District bylaw. To me, that's really how it needs to be looked at. The use, I'll just say personally, the use does not offend me in that it's a gas station it's a gas station building with pumps that are there today. It's a tiny little gas station. It's a service, small service facility. So I think it's probably, as we're going to have gas there, which is what that building is currently, it's probably the least impactful gas station that we could ask for. That doesn't really bother me. I've never lived here in Holliston while that was a functioning gas station, so I don't know, what circulation would look like. But based on 2 pumps in 1 bay, I can't imagine it's going to be overwhelming. Whether that fits into a long-term goal of downtown to have only 1 gas station versus 2 gas stations or some other multiple, I don't know. I did find a little bit of comfort in the business district commission or whatever that board is called, chaired by Peter Barberi, saying that, they thought it was a decent use of the site, given the history of the site and what it is today, which is vacant and falling apart. So that didn't bother me, but I do think we've done a pretty good job talking about aesthetics and some design criteria. I just want to make sure this board is comfortable with that those things potentially are lining up with that design guideline. We're never going to have a historic building per se because we're not starting from scratch, but I kind of think we've done an okay job managing it to the district, but I think we all have to walk through that together and then determine that as a group.
I think it's a cute brick building, but I do have real concerns about using it as a gas station. I just think that a lot has changed since it was a gas station in terms of traffic volume, the traffic lights, and most importantly, that it's a village district where we want to encourage people to walk and stop in stores and draw pedestrians downtown. The worry is that it will sit vacant. I know, the owner has left it in the condition it is. It's the same owner that would be operating the gas station, right? It doesn't have to be left in that condition for us. It could be made to look nicer even if it wasn't used, but it's not. And so, I have concern. It's taking a risk. I know that, it might just sit vacant for a long time and that's not a great use, but there's going to be, a parking area and maybe some other areas more conducive to people parking and walking around downtown right behind it. And I think that might provide an opportunity for something different to go in there. Those are my thoughts.
Mark, any comments?
So I'm going to chime in a little bit on that. So,
Oh, sorry, Jacob.
to Liz, I absolutely agree that a perfect world, that site would be reused or converted to something different. But I just have to believe that given the past use of that site and likely what's either in the soils today or the fact that there's tanks in the ground and a number of other sort of commercial factors when somebody's going to assess a different use of that site, I think it's limited. Maybe a parking lot, if somebody were able to clean it up and resurface it, cap it. I don't think it's going to be a retail shop. I don't think it's going to be anything that a restaurant or anything that we would deem appropriate for the village district. So I'm looking at it not to say, well, we're stuck with it, so we have to live with it. But I'm looking at it to say, I'm not sure there's a tremendous amount of alternative. So I'd rather see something get reused in our town in a really limited way. It is an amenity to have a gas and service station. I don't love it, but I do believe that a reuse is better than a no use or a vacant property. So I do think there's some limitations on what other folks could do with that just based on the prior use of that site. I can't imagine it's going to be very user friendly.
Yeah, I guess I echo your concerns, Liz, but I've been questioning too how we develop it otherwise. It is a cute little structure. It could be used for something perhaps more pedestrian friendly. I don't know what, or whether it be economically viable. Because I wonder how economically viable a gas station and with the restrictions that has would be too, but that's not ours to figure out. It worked for a long time. Okay. Mark, any thoughts or?
I think I made my thoughts known on the last call. I'm obviously very, very pro development and business, but I hate the site. I've gone down there on 2 occasions and sat and watched traffic and people. We've got enough gas stations in this town. We sure as hell have enough service stations in this town and enough used car lots in this town. So I think long term, yeah, it might sit there vacant, but there's a higher and better use for that corner. The village has struggled to have an identity for decades. Some lousy decisions made in the past. And I just think there's a higher and better use. And Jay, I hear your concerns of the cost to get there, but maybe the town needs to step up and do something on this corner. We seem to waste a whole lot of time talking about stuff and never doing it. So maybe some of the listeners on this call can take up the mantle and get it done.
I don't disagree. Honestly, the best use of this would be, to me, a continuation, like I said, of a municipal parking lot of some sort, which would mean the town would somehow have to either take the property or buy the property. Gas will be tricky there. As I said before, I'm not going to repeat it, but it is a tiny little gas station. And it's a very low profile gas station, and I'm looking at alternatives. So I think that's why I'm the proponent. I'm not the proponent of anything. I'm just a proponent of what's there currently, which is a dilapidated gas station being a little more functional. But I do understand where you guys are coming from, and I appreciate that. So I think as a board we'll vote and see where this lands. So I think we have to hear from, I guess I can make a motion to approve the grant of the application, if you want me to look at it that way. Then we can vote. Is that the way you want to approach it?
Yeah, well, I think that's probably the right way. Yeah, why don't you do it subject to conditions?
Well, I was just
No,
going to
that doesn't make sense.
we do it subject to conditions, and then we can probably walk through the threshold of the grant itself, because it's either a grant with conditions or a denial. So if I propose a grant with conditions and you have no desire for that as a board, then it's deemed a denial. So I think that's the way I would have to approach it. And then if we all agreed to proceed, we could talk about conditions.
Okay, yeah, that's
Does that
probably.
make sense? Does that everyone make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
Okay, so I would make a motion that we grant the approval of the special permit for Gulf Services, Inc. for the property located at 79 Washington Street for use as a gas station with reduced in-yard setbacks with conditions. So that's the threshold question. We don't need to get into conditions, but we should vote on that even proceeding.
Do we have a second for that? All right, I will second it so that we can move the question. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? John? No. Jay?
Aye.
Mark?
Okay.
Liz?
No.
That motion fails, 1 vote to 3. So, I'm sorry, Mr. Richard, but thank you for all of the effort and information and time. I think we got kind of a tough concern about our downtown there, and you're in a tough place to defend it, but thank you for all of your effort and time and work on that. And thank you to the board members for your consideration.
Sorry, I thought you could hear me. I didn't realize it was muted, but thank you for all your time and deliberations. It's very much appreciated. I understand it's a tough site. And if we have another proposal, we'll be back before you.
Okay, and welcome you in, and I say we would certainly give it all due consideration and hope you leave here knowing that we did. This was not an easy decision, I think, on anybody's part, but.
No, I understand. It's a difficult site.
It is. We'd like to see it.
No, I appreciate your open-minded consideration. It clearly was not kind of made to succeed from the beginning.
But you certainly made all the efforts that.
But yeah, at least we're trying to provide the information
the right way, and I think that probably said very well what they did with me, and I think with the board that your cooperation and, you know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but again, appreciate your time. And if we come up with another idea, we will definitely be back before you.
Phenomenal. Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have other business tonight anyway? Okay. Well, looks like we have work cut out a little more on the 9th, including the farmer's porch variance that it's a little bit of work. Good. In that case, I'd love to give you back the rest of your evening.
We get to go watch the NBA draft.
There you go. I don't even know anybody that's in it this year without any college basketball.
Well, it was weird because last year was like this. Yeah, it was like this abbreviated season. So I think my understanding is that there are some kids or students coming out, but that there's a boatload of like Europeans, and it's kind of a weird draft. Although it seems like that's every draft now.
Lonzo Ball or whatever his brother is coming.
Yeah.
Maybe
Right.
number one.
Right.
All right.
Good job tonight, John. It was not easy.
No,
Yeah,
thank
thanks,
you,
John.
everybody. And thanks for the good consideration. I hate to, drag that out the way it did, but I think we did the right way. Considered all the elements of it. All right. Well, in that case, if anybody'd like to move to adjourn, we'll
Aaron,
gladly accept that motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? John, aye. Jay,
aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
Well, thank you. Karen, thank you very
Thanks,
much,
Aaron.
as
Here, we
always.
saved you all your homework. No homework tonight. No
Yeah, really, nothing.
question then.
Yeah, just minutes, right? And Chris and Kristen, thank you very much for your help in making this happen.
Yep.
So
Yes.
everybody
Thanks all.
have some night back.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Take
Aye.
care all.
Bye.